since deadly tornadoes ripped through western Kentucky, and just a few months since the deadly floods in eastern Kentucky. Couple that with a global pandemic, and this year has not been without its challenges for many Kentuckians. Still, in a one-on-one sit-down interview with Governor Andy Beshear today, he tells me he feels optimistic on where the state is headed while looking back on where it's been. Almost a year to the day.
The absolute worst thing I've ever seen, the worst thing that I've dealt with.
And the images of the deadly tornado that moved through western Kentucky still visible. The dozens of lives lost and even more forever changed still top of mind for Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. In talking with the governor, he reflects on that day.
Governor, we sit here as we head into the one-year anniversary of the deadly western Kentucky tornadoes. Many families still rebuilding from that tragedy. What is your reaction to that situation 1 year later, and what is your administration doing to really help people return to some sense of normalcy as quickly as possible?
It's hard to believe it's been a year. And that was one of the most difficult days, but really difficult months that followed. Losing 81 people in a tornado doesn't happen. Nearly destroyed my dad's hometown of Dawson Springs, hit my mom's hometown of Bowling Green. We were there not only to mourn with those families, but with the promise that even a year later we would still be standing side by side with everyone who'd been harmed. We're seeing new jobs come to each of these areas. You see new homes. That's going to mean these towns not only survive, but can thrive. Is it going fast enough? No. But we are making progress each and every day.
Months later, tragedy striking again. This time, taking lives in eastern Kentucky.
And from one natural disaster to the next, turning to eastern Kentucky, where many lives were lost there, many people still rebuilding there after the deadly floods. What help is available to people there, and what do you say to those who say not enough is being done to help people there get back on their feet?
We're pushing hard. And listen, these are families, thousands of them, that have lost everything, just everything. It's really hard to ask for patience when you've lost so much. Now we've got a lot of people in travel trailers. Each one of them, the state has provided more than 600, I think at 50 as of today. So in many ways, our challenges in eastern Kentucky on the rebuilding are even greater than western Kentucky. I mean, western Kentucky, $500 million of insurance proceeds flowed in to help. We don't see that in the east. So what we're doing right now is we are in direct acquisitions as a state to purchase higher ground, where we can not only rebuild people's homes that are outside of the floodplain, but build new communities, rebuild towns that coal companies may have built 100 years ago. And if we do it right, maybe reimagine what that neighborhood could look like.
Governor Beshear saying despite the hardship, the tragedy's also providing an opportunity to showcase Kentuckians doing what they do best.
What is it like to see, neighbor helping neighbor and really stepping in to help everyone?
I think that's it's darkness and it's light. We had over 1,400 rescues in 48 hours in that flooding. I think one of the best emergency responses we've seen, but Kentuckians saved so many more Kentuckians than that. We are a special people. We care about each other, we love each other, and that's what makes Kentucky what we are and who we are.
And while a new year brings new issues to tackle, from inflation to job growth, COVID, and more, Governor Beshear says he stands at the ready.
I want the people of Kentucky to know that we've been through a lot, but what they're about to see is really exciting. And I think it's like that proverb that says there may be weeping in the evening, but joy in the morning. We are turning that page, coming out of this pandemic. And we've had the best 2 years of job creation, economic development in our history.
But also says he has not forgotten those in need of help the most.
We love them, and we will not abandon them, and we will be there until the job is done.
Governor Beshear filing this week to seek another 4-year term. Former congressional candidate Jeff Young saying he intends to challenge Beshear. Several Republicans, including Attorney General Daniel Cameron, Agriculture Commissioner Ryan Quarles, and former U.S. Ambassador to the UN Kelly Craft, are also in the race.